Hello all, hope all is well and welcome back to Dante Armas Gaming. Now today we are going to basically talk about how to overclock your GPU, the Pascal guide. So as previously said, I was waiting on another 1070 Ti to come from EVGA and it has now arrived, so I can finally do basically how to overclock your GPU or how to overclock your GPUs. This guide is only for the Pascal models, so that's your GTX 1060s, 1070s, 1070 Ti's, 1080s and 1080 Ti's. This won't work on AMD GPUs, it won't work on Maxwell cards, but some of this will apply to the Maxwell cards themselves. Obviously I know RTX from NVIDIA is being announced, dates have been released, but like most people, some people can't afford to go out and buy new cards, so people are going to be stuck for a little while with the Pascal graphics cards. Items you will need, one is a Pascal GPU, one of the ones I've just listed, an overclocking software. So this is the two biggest ones that people use is MSI Afterburner and EVGA Precision XOC. So these will be the tools that you'll be using. EVGA's Precision XOC is a much better software now than it used to be when it first released, and you're going to need some way to be able to test your GPUs and the overclocks. So I'm going to be just using Heaven Benchmark over here. So this is a benchmark program. I've been using this for all my clients and for all intents and purposes for this video. However, if you were to mainly run an overclock, you'd want to do it in about 10, maybe 11 programs, different programs, to find the max overclock for your GPUs. This is down to the stability. It may be stable in one or maybe stable in 5 of them, but the other 5 or 6 it may be unstable and crash, which means you have to dial in, i.e. downclock your GPU to get the best results. This can sometimes take a bit of time, days, weeks or potentially even months to find the best results. Nothing is ever going to be easy when it comes to PCs and overclocking, but for some enthusiasts out there, we love to do it. It has taken me with the 1070s about 2 weeks. With the 1070 Ti's it was a lot quicker because you basically know what you're doing, you know the limits. So first step is to open up the NVIDIA control panel, which comes with some software, and basically you'll want to sort of go to manage 3D settings over here. When it loads, you'll then want to go down to power management and you want to change it from optimal power to prefer maximum performance and click apply, which is somewhere here. I don't need to do this because I've already done it. Optimal is for efficiency and giving you good performance at the same time, but as everyone is here, you're looking at overclocking, so we don't want optimal performance or basic performance or power saving performance. We want all that power that we can get to these GPUs, so you can go out and you can boast about your FPS and what you're getting. So open up EVGA Precision XOC and this is what you are greeted with. So what we're going to talk about here is basically the settings, so the menu and what else you do have, and the monitoring hardware. So let's talk about the monitoring hardware that we are going to be using, or I'm going to be using for instance, which is hardware monitor. So here will be 3 settings, 4 settings, however many, how many GPUs you got, into a system setting. System settings I leave alone, don't change frame rate or frame time, leave that perfectly as it is. Now I'm running 2 1070 Ti Superclock Black Editions, so I'm going to have 2 GPUs shown here, GPU 1, GPU 2, and they're both set the same. So they both have everything here that's ticked on each of them. So first that we come to is the total power percentage. So the power percentage, and this is how much power usage in percent that your GPU is having. I'll run through when we look at a benchmark later on what that basically means. GPU clock, so basically minimum is 1607 and the max mine has reached at the moment. Like I said, I've been running Heaven Benchmark, getting it warm, so it's 1885, so I haven't really done much. GPU temperatures, what our minimum temperature is and what our max temperature will be. Fan speed, so this is in percentage, this is how fast your fans will be running, and then power limit at the bottom. Now power limit is a 0 to 1 ratio, 0 is off, 1 is on. What this basically means is that if your power limit hits 1, you're basically thermal throttling your GPUs based on the power percentage reaching its max. So then you'll have to dial in your overclock. Obviously memory clocks there. Obviously want to know how much volts our GPUs are getting, and this goes in millivolts, and I'll again go through that a bit later on. So that there is what I use to monitor my hardware. So I'm going to come out of there. On OSD, sorry, not OCD, OSD. OSD is the on-screen display. This is what we'll be using basically in our benchmarks to see how stable our GPUs are with the clocks that we'll be adding. An OC scan. So there's two ways of overclocking a GPU. It can either be done manually through this setting here, or it can be done through OC scan. So OC scan is basically where you can adjust a curve. So for instance, the basic curve which is here, and it is very basic. As you can see, every square I click, the GPU goes up. So no point trying to add a 625 megahertz overclock, it won't work. These cards will not go above around about 175. So we're going to be down here somewhere. Also, our max voltage that the GPUs can go to if you're running Pascal, or for instance the 1070 Ti or 1070 Ti's, and I even believe it could be on the 1080s as well, is 1093, sorry, so 1093, or 1.093 volts, which is down here. So it's the fourth one in, which is this column here. Anything above that in millivolts, don't bother trying to overclock, because on basic it won't work anyway, because they won't go up to 1162. Just won't happen. You can't get it to do it. So we need to find out our max clock. You can start this by clicking the little squares as I said, and the curve will follow suit, and this is on the basic setting for the entire curve. There is also linear. Now linear, as it suggests, is a linear line, which is there. So it steps up every single time. With the linear, kind of the same as the basic, and obviously we've just said how it works, and this is basically applying the overclock as well. So the more you add, the higher the clock will go, and the volts will lead to crashes, and especially as these GPUs won't be able to handle the offset that is too high. So you want to be very careful with this setting. However, the last setting that we have on OC scan is your manual setting. With this one, it's the same as the other two, but as the name suggests, it is manual. You have to set each square individually, and this is what can take a lot of time, and especially patience, because you will click on the wrong one. So for understanding the characteristics of how this all works, like everything, you'll need to have a starting point. So basically what we're going to do is a base test and a platform to see what will work and what we can mold with. So you want to go over to your Heaven benchmark, make sure the settings here are the same, so ultra quality, extreme tessellation, and 8x8 anti-aliasing. So I'm just going to click on this and let it run. So, as I said earlier, I've had Heaven Benchmark running for about 20 minutes to get it nice and warm. As you can see, I haven't clicked OSD because over here will basically show all the settings that we applied earlier. And this is to basically give the program a run in, so we can basically see how these GPUs are gonna be. So I am actually going to come out of here. Actually, can I minimize it so it is, there you go, click that one, a little bit easier than quitting and coming back in. There you go. So you want to click OSD, come out, make sure you do this before you go in, which is always handy, then you don't have to do what I just did, and go back to the full screen. So on the left hand side, as I said, with OSD will show your hardware monitoring. Settings that we've selected, and basically just keep an eye on things. So here is your power percentage, your GPU clocks and your memory clocks, your temperatures, your voltage, your fan speed and your power limit. Like I said, if you've got one card you'll only see one of each of these. If you've got two, you'll see two of each. Over on the right hand side basically is the FPS if you've enabled it via escape and gone to FPS counter in Heaven Benchmark. Make sure obviously your GPU monitor is on as well, and the two cards or one card that you're running. So you may find our voltages will drop from time to time. This is basically because as the temperature starts getting hotter and it starts to climb, our GPU clock will also drop. Don't forget that the drop is because the clock and the voltages are tied together. So these and these, 1 or 2, are tied together. Like I said, as the GPUs will get warmer, the clocks will drop, which will drop your frame rates. So this system is dynamic and will adjust itself slowly. Like I said, as the power and temperatures change, it won't just bottom out, which will be a massive and drastic drop in frames, which is going to give you a freeze or crash, which will infuriate you, especially as a gamer. So I'm going to come out of here and go through the basic graph. If I click quit, so if we look on the hardware monitor, we will basically see where our sort of GPU's max were at with running it. So 89 was the max on the total power percentage. My clocks went up to 1885. That's just self overclocking. The GPU will do that automatically. My max temperature reached 69 with a 55% fan speed. Didn't have any power limiting, which is obviously brilliant because that would be very annoying, because that basically means you haven't won the silicon lottery and you cannot overclock. And the memory clocks obviously stayed the same. So with fiddling these settings over here, we can basically see what we're going to get. I'm going to go straight in at a, let's go 125 if I click the right one. As I said, very annoying getting these squares right. Overclock on the basic setting. So find your megahertz, click 125, click apply. I am going to ramp my fans up to 100%, and I'm basically going to go in and run Heaven Benchmark again. And this is just so we can loop it and see if we have any issues, which hopefully we won't have. And you want to do this every step of the way. You want to overclock, apply, test, overclock, apply, test. And again, I've forgotten to put OSD on, which is very frustrating whilst doing this video, because normally I just run through it and obviously I'm showing you guys how to. So like I said, every step of the way you want to overclock it, apply, test, just to see where we're basically going. And like I said, I like pushing my cards to their limits and seeing what we basically get. So at the moment, as you can see, my temperatures are between 47 and 53, which is very, very good, or 54 now. My total power percentage on each of them is jumping between 67 and 84, and my GPU offset has gone up to 2012, and my memory clock has stayed at 4007. So all I've done here is adjust the megahertz on the GPU, and then you can just click benchmark, run your test and see what happens. So once that's done and looped and it's all stable, as you can see there, it would have dropped by 12 because of the temperatures gaining. bringing down the megahertz, which again will bring down the FPS, but it's nothing too much to worry about. I'm going to come out of there, and I am going to basically now go on to the manual side of things. So what you want to do is count 4 into 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to go with the same 1, 2, 5, which is there. And then you want to do a few drop downs. Now the reason I'm doing it up here and I'm only doing a few drop downs here is because I don't really care for anything from here to basically there. This is not where you will be gaming at. If you're an enthusiast, you'll want to be gaming up in this region, so this is where you're going to want to apply your overclocks. So click apply again to save, and it's adjusted everything the wrong way. Okay, it's set itself manually. And then you'll want to jump basically back into Heaven Benchmark and run it again, and this time we're going to have a little look at where our settings are going to be. So if you remember, in the last test I did, it was 2012, and now it's 2025, 2012. So it did jump up, but obviously it's jumped back down, which can be a bit annoying when you're setting like this. It's going to take a little bit of a while, and yeah, it's basically frustrating. But as you can see, we're stabilised at 2012 and we haven't dropped to 2000 as we did before. Now every step you take in overclocking, so every 13 megahertz is 1 GPU clock step. So it goes in increments of 13. Don't ask me why, I don't have a clue. I didn't design the technology, but every GPU clock step is every 13 megahertz. So again, come out there and stop that. So that is sort of the GPU boost free. I don't like it because it doesn't really sort of give you what you want. It doesn't do what you want half the time, and it annoys me. So what I'm going to do is come out of OC scan. I'm going to now go to your manual settings. So if you've got one GPU up here, don't worry, you won't see this sync. This is because I'm running SLI, so both my cards are synced together, as you can see, and you won't see this here, but you will see this here. Sorry, this is basically linking your power target and temp target together, and then you've got a few other settings. So you can manually set your GPU clock offset, your memory clock offset, and obviously your power voltage. Now this will bring up a warning, and this is basically to advise that when you are doing this, be careful, don't blow up your GPUs. It's not a good idea, guys, and it's going to be very costly, and I'm sure you don't want to go and blow up a very expensive card, especially if you just bought it and you haven't got a lot of money. So here we are going to basically apply a manual and offset, and this is for us enthusiasts, and we won't be wanting to do anything in the lower spectrum like I said in the manual OC scan. We want to be doing it here. We want to be finding out what we're going to be getting. So how do we apply these, and how does it come down to what we're working with? So first of all, you want to max your power target to 120%. You want to type in 92 and click enter, otherwise it won't take effect. And priority, you want to set your priority to temp target. So basically I'm telling this program that my temperatures on the GPUs, once they reach 92 Celsius or degrees, then to back off the overclock. Now your cards should never reach this, or won't ever reach this, so first of all, that's a good thing. I've ramped up my fan speed, like I said, because I'm sacrificing noise for performance, and I'm basically going to go ahead and add a 150 megahertz offset. There you go. So what this GPU clock here is going to do is add a offset to here of 150 megahertz. So come out of there. I'm going to basically jump into Heaven again and run it and see what we get. Now that won't change in idle, so in your desktop screen you will only notice that offset up over here when you're running the system. There you go. So it's now set 2050. So just by adding 150 GPU offset, We jumped up to 150, 2050, sorry, megahertz, but it has now come down and settled at 2038. And again, every step you do is going to give you more FPS, which is obviously what we're looking for. So I'm going to come out, wrong button again, quit and come out of there. So that is your GPU offset. Now your memory clock offset, these can go up to about 600, so I'm going to just type in 600, can go up to 600 megahertz. However, I'm not wanting to do that, I'm only going to go 300. I'm going to adjust this here to 175, click apply and jump back in and basically see what this is get. So don't get me wrong, I haven't done any power voltage, I haven't told the system or the program to add 100% of the volts, which I'll show you in a minute. So we've jumped up to 2076 but downclocked to 2063, so that's basically telling me it's stable at 2063 megahertz on the GPU, and your 300 megahertz offset on the memory clocks is now showing. So when you run a benchmark, you will want to look down in the right hand side and you'll see this little tab here. So this is basically your max FPS, your minimum FPS, and the FPS average up here, which is also up here, but the two will be different. And as you can see with what I've just done, that the FPS is jumping around and that is running through the frames. Now what I haven't gone through, you guys, because I wanted to leave this till the last bit of this part, is your GPU voltage. If you remember at the beginning, I told you these cards can go to 1.093 volts. We haven't seen that. I've been keeping an eye on this. So GPU 1 is at 1.044 and GPU 2 is at 1.063. So we haven't reached our max voltage on these cards, which is basically holding back our overclock. So what you want to do is you want to go back to manual, and this tab here, which is the voltage, you'll want to whack it up to 100%. And as I said, the warning message is basically you'll want to understand this and stabilize the overclocks. You want to use it, but you don't want to blow up your GPUs. So if you don't feel comfortable with this and you wanted to go back to 125 megahertz overclock and you're absolutely fine with that, then that's down to you. It's personal preference. If you get slight overclock and you're happy, that's fine. Don't forget, overclocking is basically giving you free performance. These cards that are sent out, especially from the AIBs like EVGA, are shipped out at factory stock. Why don't they send them out at the top speeds that these cards can run at? Is because the RMA system, you know, think about how many cards they ship out. Over the last 10 years, how many cards can you fathom that they've sent out? If every single one of them was running at the max they were at, they would have, you know, RMAs galore. Because don't forget, overclocking is basically going to shorten the lifespan of your card. Now, my old system, I had a very old card in there. It was probably 2 years old when I got it, and up to about say 6 months ago I changed it. So my old system was about 10 years old, sorry, with a 12-year-old graphics card, and I had that running overclocked all day, every day, gaming, and it never broke on me. So yeah, overclocking will shorten the lifespan, so if you want to do a small overclock and you're happy with it, then brilliant. Just to let you know, some cards won't overclock. So if you've lost a silicon lottery and your card won't even overclock by 25 megahertz, don't worry, don't feel bad, because the GTX series, especially sort of the 1070s plus, are very, very good cards. So you're still going to get a lot of power out of them. However, back to this. So I've jumped up the voltage. So this is basically telling my GPUs and the program to go 100% of the max voltage to the cards. And like I said, every sort of millivolt, it's only about 0.35 millivolts per time. So I'm not adding a great deal to this card, so it's perfectly within its safe zone, if you were. So now I'm going to jump into heaven, I'm going to run it, and I'm going to see what happens now. So just let this settle. The cards are jumped up to 2076. So a massive boost. I got 1888 just with the card's self-overclocking. I'm now at 2076 and the cards are still reading here below the 1.093 volts that we said about. Again, you want to go in, you want to run your benchmark, and you want to leave this to go through all 26 scenes. I'm just going to basically leave this to do what it's doing for a couple of scenes and see what happens. Mind you, I am keeping my eye on down here to see what my max FPS is going to get up to and what up here is also doing. So the cards, the total power percentage that they're getting is very good. The clock is very stable, which is a bonus, because if your clock's unstable you're going to have to downclock your system, because that will drop the frames that you'll see. Temperatures are in the low to mid 50s, which is absolutely perfect on air-cooled cards. You couldn't wish for more. Mind you, they are at 100%, and my GPU voltage now has creeped up to 1.081. So again, still not the 1.093 that I said about earlier. So I'm kind of happy with this overclock. It's stable. Can I push it to 200 megahertz on the GPU? Well, I'll try in a minute and see what happens. So at the moment, running through these scenes, 222 max FPS, 8 scenes in, which is very good. I'm going to come out and I'm actually going to go for a 200 megahertz overclock. So this may mean that this card will crash. I haven't had many 1070s, especially 1070 Ti's, go above 175 megahertz on the GPU clock, but I may have won the Silicon Lottery. It may actually clock up that far, which will obviously push these cards a little bit further. Obviously if it does crash, then we know 200 megahertz just isn't going to work. So jump in, leave it to stabilize, and just that extra 25 megahertz is giving us a 2101 megahertz overclock on the cards. And again, the GPU voltages are very good. I'm now going to go and run a benchmark, and it crashed. So that's what will happen. Your system will basically tell you that that's not going to work. So no, unfortunately 175 megahertz on the GPU clock set or offset is where it's at. Now, we were going to talk about K-Boost. So K-Boost is basically this button here. This will run your GPU at its max clock settings. We will have to cancel off a few things, so exit that and click OK. So basically, if you click this button here, this will run your GPU on the desktop at idle at its max clock. So basically what that will mean is your GPU will have its max clock on the whole time you have K-Boost on. It's good for benchmarking, but you don't want to keep it running 24/7. Run the card at its max clock, whether it's idle or in game. 24/7 will basically cause these cards to overheat, warp, blow up, and basically stuffed. Obviously I can't show you that button now because obviously I'm in the video and it's not really going to work. So like I said, I wanted to push these cards to the limits. It's free performance. Like I said, the factory settings will come out and there will be head height to overclock them, and obviously just by following these steps and what I've done you can see how they will overclock. Now, if you push these cards further, like I showed you, 200 megahertz on the GPU clock offset, it crashed. However, if it does work and you start seeing the GPU cores won't be able to handle it, the telltale signs is pixelations, or it will start to pixelate all little squares on the screen. You'll start to see tearing, so this will be funny rainbow coloured lines vertically, horizontally maybe, green lines, which basically means that your GPU has artifact and you're starting to tear the system. So yeah, you want to make sure that you don't your card's artifact, because that is going to basically then decrease the lifespan of them even more, or it could even be to the worst case scenario that you blow your GPU up and you're not going to get very far. So I hope this video has helped you out. If you do have any comments or you do want to ask anything, then please put them in the comment section below. Obviously I will link my EVGA affiliate code, so if you want to go and buy a 1070 Ti, then you're quite welcome to. I'll also link the Amazon code, affiliate code as well. But like I said, yes, RTX is coming out, but most of us can't afford them, so we're going to be stuck with the Pascal for a little bit longer. So if you do have a Pascal card, this is how this is going to work for you. Again guys, please do like, comment, subscribe and share my page, and like I said, I shall see you around, and I shall see you in the next video.